I had a blast when I was younger. Everything was great. Sure, I was still miserable, but when I was in high school, I could fire up my daisy-wheeled word processor, fill a gallon-sized movie theater cup with instant coffee, and write all night while listening to talk radio or MTV, back when MTV still featured M. But now, I am older. Time has a way of passing, and 2020 reminds me of a mixture of Demolition Man and Idiocracy. In fact, this is what I saw while flipping through the news channels the other day.
Thanks a lot, you shit.
For repeated violations of the verbal morality statute.
So much for the seashells.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Who am I? I'm Kenneth Nichols, aka Allison Rhodes, and I've had more writer's block than usual of late during this wonderful year. Instead of wasting an entire day complaining that I can't work on one of my novels, stories, or plays, or even poems, I'm going to do something productive. I love helping writers almost as much as I love writing, so I'm going to offer you some tips to beat the pandemic blues. But first, a word from our sponsor, Hyperbaton. Are you sick of sentences in which all of the words are in the proper places? Hyperbaton comes from the Greek to transpose, or inverted, and can be used to describe a sentence or phrase in which a writer assembles the words in the wrong order. With Hyperbaton, you can change a sentence's emphasis. Compare "you are a winner" to "a winner is you." Different. Hyperbaton also helps you rearrange poetic lines to maintain your desired meter. Shakespeare used hyperbaton in Measure for Measure, my favorite of his plays. Remember the timeless wisdom? Some rise by sin, and some fall by virtue? No, that's not right. Some rise by sin, and some by virtue fall. See, it fits the meter. Some rise by sin, and some by virtue fall. There's a reason why actors don't recite the lines that way. Use Hyperbaton today. Use the promo code Allison, that's ALLISON, for 20% off. In no time, you'll help Yoda go from, "Do you judge me by my size?" to, "Judge me by my size, do you?" And we're back. Let's crush some writer's block. Number 1, clear your mind. A rich guy in Syracuse, the Italy, not the New York one, asked ancient Greek guy Archimedes to make sure that his solid gold crown was, in fact, solid gold. Archimedes said, "Sure, no problemo. I'll just melt it down and we can see if the metal is pure." Rich Syracuse guy, of course, said, "What are you talking about? You can't melt my crown." So Archimedes spent days and days brainstorming. Finally, he decided to cool his overheating mind by taking a bath. As he lowered himself into the tub, he realized that the water level rose because of displacement, and then he had it. He could simply ensure that the crown was pure gold by using displacement to determine the metal's density. Archimedes leapt from the tub and ran naked around the streets of Syracuse shouting, "Eureka!" meaning "I have found it." Now, maybe you shouldn't run around the streets of your town in your birthday suit, but clearing your mind does work. All-time great Isaac Asimov, who only wrote, like 600-ish books, he worked out a story problem by going to the movies once. You can do the same thing. When you, can't focus on the opening scene of your play, go for a walk. Play with a dog. Your dog, not a random dog. Just get your mind off of things. Stories are like coffee. They percolate in your head. Allow that percolation to happen. 2, work on a different project. I can't get my brain to fall in line enough to work on my play, so I'm writing this script. Isaac Asimov, and how he would love how often I'm bringing him up, gave this advice in one of his 3 autobiographies. As he always said, his favorite subject was himself. He said that he seldom had writer's block because he had so many projects going on. If he couldn't work on a novel, he'd set that manuscript aside and write one of his nonfiction essays for Analog, or one of his brick-thick annotations of classics like the Bible or Shakespeare, or one of his books of dirty limericks. No, really, he wrote books of dirty limericks. It's like the Eliminator from American Gladiators. Remember the end of each show? You choose a path in the maze and hope you choose right. If you end up facing a gladiator before you get over the line, you can choose to struggle or back up and try a different path. If you run into nitro, try again until you cross the finish line. If your short story just isn't working, try working on something else. 3, write garbage. Seriously, write garbage. That's why we have revision. If you're like me, you can feel pretty precious about some of your work. If you're really proud of the novel you're working on, you might feel as though you don't want to sully what you've done already by adding a bum scene or a bad description. I'm a once-and-future stand-up comedian. One of many dreams that I've deferred. Is it easy to get up on stage and make people laugh? Unless you're Bill Burr, no. And even he can struggle sometimes. Every time I did a set, a million years ago, I would memorize the first line of my first joke. I'd repeat that opener in my head over and over so I would be able to say something once I took the stage. Once I got that first little bit out, I knew that the rest of my jokes, such as they were, would be at my fingertips, even though I was nervous. So just uncap the fountain pen, open the open office doc, then write, scribble, jot, whatever. You can always fix it later. Play a game with yourself. Try to come up with the worst next sentence possible. Just write. Skip to another chapter or stanza. Free write some notes. Anything. 4. Make other kinds of art. Maybe it's just me, but sometimes I lose sight of the fact that writers are a kind of artist. I've never been a great visual artist, but I have a lot of creative energy. For the past couple of years, if I haven't been able to write, I've been painting with acrylics. A few months ago, I looked at one of my baseball cards and realized that it would be really cool to paint on the top loaders. Painting on the transparent plastic creates a really cool stained glass effect. Check these out. Here's an image from an episode of Black Mirror. As you can see, I'm not a good artist, so I can't draw faces. That particular episode was helpful because the character had no face at that moment. Here is the harbor near me. I sent these to friends. That's the other great thing about making visual art. You can share it. Here's an image from the cover of a Nancy Drew book. These are my versions of the 1951 Bowman Roy Campanella baseball card. And this is the first one I did. As you can see, it's a comment on 2020. All kinds of art feed into each other, and the processes are the same to some extent. 5. Baseball metaphor alert. Think like a hitter. Barry Bonds, Alan Trammell, Mark McGwire, Matt Noakes. Just imagine what they look like stepping into the batter's box. Imagine I could show you a brief video clip of any of them hitting home runs without running afoul of MLB Advanced Media, even though my fair use inclusion of a clip would totally fall under fair use. When those guys stepped into the batter's box, they knew that they could mash. They had no fear because they had been in that place tens of thousands of times. They had seen at least 100,000 pitches. Of course, it's impossible to knock the ball out of Tiger Stadium every time, but any great hitter has confidence born of the fact that they knew what they were doing. The same goes for you. How many words have you written? Me? Millions. You? The numbers are relevant. The point is that you know how to add that next line, and the next one, and the one after that. So next time you are blocked, remember, you know how to write. You know what you're doing, just like Picasso before a canvas, Tiger Woods at the driving range, or a YouTuber about to unbox a box of cereal on camera, and that's how they make a living somehow. Okay, that's all for now. I actually feel like working on my play. Like the video, subscribe, leave a comment below. How do you beat writer's block? Leave a link to a piece that you've written after overcoming a block. Oh, and there's one more thing that you should do.
Buy my book! Buy my book! Buy my book! Buy my book!
The links are in the description. I'm Kenneth Nichols / Allison Rhodes reminding you that you got this and books are good.